Okay, should be good to go here. Looks like we are. So we're starting a bit early considering the score. I'll keep you guys updated on what's happening. So we'll be watching some plays live as we're doing this. So as people start coming in, we can start to talk about our thoughts about the game. It's really just the first half, if we're being realistic. I want to see what's going to happen with the other games today. Check out what's going to happen with the college football rankings. I think that's important too. Obviously, though, the story here on this Voice of College Football postgame show is Ohio State is obliterating Rutgers. It's 52-13 with 6 minutes left. And the game was over by the first quarter. It was 24-6 after one, 21 points in the second. Rutgers hasn't done anything so far today. It's been a dominating victory. It will be. There's still 6:20 to go, so we'll watch some plays live here together. Obviously, I can't show you the plays here because then we would get copyright struck. But welcome, people. What's up, Chardon? Think CJ Stroud should be better? Yeah, you know what? Maybe. No. Great game for CJ Stroud. He played really well. The first half, especially, that's probably the best first half Ohio State's had this season. Might be the best they have all season. It would be very hard for them to top that first half performance because defensively things were looking really good. CJ Stroud was playing great. He had a great touch on his passes. His last touchdown pass in the half where he was maneuvering his way in and around the pocket, found Olave on that left sideline, and then Olave with some nice tiptoe running in order to get into the middle of the field and then score a touchdown. That was just beautiful. But really good the fact that they were able to score multiple touchdowns through multiple players. It wasn't just Travion Henderson like we've been seeing in the past few weeks against Akron and Tulsa, where he was essentially carrying the offense in a lot of ways. Everybody was playing a part. CJ Stroud with his 5 touchdown passes. Henderson had a touchdown run. Garrett Wilson caught a touchdown. Ruckert caught a touchdown. Rossi caught a touchdown. Olave's caught 2 touchdowns. So it's been pretty good for Ohio State. So obviously we'll talk a little bit about what could happen for the Buckeyes in terms of their ranking after the game's over. I'm sure we'll get more people when the game ends. I just figured we'll start a little bit earlier because it's a little bit of a blowout. Rutgers has the ball right now. So we'll see if they can maybe get some more garbage time points. So the clock will stop at 6:05 after that first down. A bunch of positives certainly should. Yeah, absolutely. I agree, Treasure. Treasure the Torah. I love that name, by the way. But yeah, ton of positive things. This is the best CJ Stroud I think has looked all season. You saw him look confident in the pocket. He was confident in his decision-making. He made some really good throws, kept his completion percentage high early, which is something he was, I guess, struggling with early on in the season. So really confident performance from CJ Stroud. But for the fact that the Buckeyes were able to get such a fast start, 2 plays on their first drive, Henderson with the easy touchdown run. Travion Henderson has been a revelation this season. A great running back. I think he has the potential to go above and beyond his freshman season. He could be remembered as one of the great running backs in Ohio State history. Is that a fumble? Yeah, Rutgers just fumbled. Classic Rutgers, you must say. One of the most important things I've seen is they were playing mistake-free football. Yeah, for sure. Mistake-free football helps you win football games, and that's something they completely did today. And what's surprising, honestly, I thought this game would be a little more competitive. I know Rutgers is not that good. It's sort of like a fake Big Ten team to a lot of people. They've never really shown they can compete with the likes of the powerhouses of the Big Ten, like Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, and so forth. But they put together a really good performance against Michigan last week, almost beat them. Now, obviously, the Wolverines come away with a huge win in Camp Randall. We'll talk about their win against Wisconsin and just the Big Ten in general and the rankings later. But I thought this game would be a lot more competitive. I didn't think Ohio State would score 2 touchdowns in the first 3 minutes, with those 2 touchdowns happening 40 seconds within themselves as a big 3rd and 11 from Rutgers. They still couldn't get the first down. Defensive line finally showed up. Funny how that makes the linebacker. Yeah, for sure. No, defensive line played well, but let's face it. This was a game where Ohio State put pedal to the metal in the first quarter. Second quarter, they just dominated, but that's good. They were aggressive enough in the first half where they're absolutely able to stomp Rutgers. The first half was not even close in terms of the teams being neck and neck. Rutgers had the one big 75-yard touchdown, and then they missed the extra point. Only Rutgers could do that. The birthplace of college football. They're about to go for it here on 4th down. I'm watching a stream, so I might be behind some of you watching on broadcast. So Rutgers converts a 4th down there, so they're past midfield. Maybe they get another touchdown. I don't know what the over-under was, or the spread. If you're a betting person, you're probably still you're probably still invested a little bit in the result of the game and the final score line. Yeah, Williams definitely had that big tackle. All right, let's see. Rutgers loving their screen plays. They really like to throw those screens. But, yeah, I thought the Scarlet Knights would be a lot more competitive after what they've shown within the first 4 games of their season. The fact that they beat Syracuse handily. I think also the fact that they kept Michigan close. I thought they would be able to keep Ohio State close, considering the Buckeyes have really only had one game where they truly dominated from minute 1 to minute 60, which was against Akron of all teams. We know Akron is not very good, but we know Rutgers is not very good. Better than Akron, but not better than Akron. But I would say Rutgers and Tulsa, probably Rutgers maybe slightly better. I think that's up for debate. Surely there's a sweep run. All right, we're so close to the final whistle. It was a 15-18 spread. The spread, okay, yeah, no, this is Ohio State's up by what? 39? Yeah, destruction here. But this is what Ohio State needed. This is exactly what the Buckeyes needed. Lose to Oregon, struggle a bit against Tulsa, dominate Akron in a game that everybody knew they were going to dominate, come to Piscataway, another conference game. Confidence is slightly low among Ohio State fans and C.J. Stroud and the way that the Buckeyes have been playing this season. They come away and just stomp on them, completely stomp on them. And it's not just the fact that Rutgers didn't play good football. Ohio State was playing great football all day long. Phenomenal passing from C.J. Stroud. Henderson with the big run. The receivers were getting open. The defense played great too. Rutgers' offense has done nothing today. Oh, 4th and 1 sneak. Did he get it? Did he get it? This is big time plays, ladies and gentlemen. It's 4th and 1 for the Scarlet Knights, 13 points. This is important for them. They need some points. Rutgers dominated so hard that Tommy Borland got a pick. Yeah, some interceptions too. Pick 6 in the first quarter. But I think that's great that so many different people scored touchdowns. That gets the confidence flowing in everyone on the offense. The defense got a defensive touchdown. That gets their confidence going. This is a great confidence-boosting win for the Buckeyes. And I think this is also a game where the committee will look at and say, okay, all right, Ohio State, you lost to Oregon, but you come away with a nice win against Rutgers. Now, it's not like they're shutting out Arkansas like what Georgia did today. What Georgia did today was prove that they probably have the best defense in the country. Alabama's doing the same thing to Ole Miss. But the performance, the talent was on display. And the players that we had a feeling that would show their talent this season, they showed their talent, I think, the best today. Chris Olave had some phenomenal catches, great running instincts on some yak to get those 2 touchdowns. He's now tied with Chris Carter for the 3rd most touchdowns in Buckeye history. Let me just get my light out here, just get some better lighting for y'all. So Chris Olave starting to move up the ranks as being one of the best receivers in Ohio State history. But now we have to see what Ohio State is able to build on this. This is a win to build off of. I mean, a win. It's about to be a win. Ohio State has the ball now. They're probably just going to try and run the clock out and call it a game. Never thought they went anywhere. Yeah, no. I mean, this is not like an OSU back kind of win. I think it's more the performance is sort of back. The way that they play, especially the offense. The last 2 games, Travion Henderson was really the guy that people were talking about. He was the highlight. He was making the big plays, the highlight runs. C.J. Stroud was struggling against Oregon, struggling against Tulsa. This was a game where this was his best game this season, hands down. It isn't even close. Yeah, the numbers, he might have had more passing yards, I think, in different games, but he threw 5 touchdowns today. He was completing passes early. He looked confident. Phenomenal. He was great today. Just a great day for Ohio State football. And there were some other results that happened too that I think are going to help the Buckeyes in the future. Who's stopping Henderson besides Henderson or Olave and Wilson? Yeah, exactly. Who's going to stop them? We'll see who stops them. Ohio State's got tough games though. That's the thing. They got Penn State. Penn State on Halloween weekend. That's going to be the tough game. You would expect Ohio State to probably do something similar against Maryland. With what Iowa did to Maryland last night, I think Ohio State is going to be capable of doing the exact same thing. So Ohio State should be 5-1 by the time they get to the Penn State game. Or do they play a game before Penn State? Because they have a bye week after Maryland. Just double checking the schedule here. You always want to make sure you're correct on all these things. No, they got Indiana. So they're going to Bloomington first. That's going to be on October 23rd. We'll see what Indiana can give Penn State. That should be an interesting game tonight. And then they host Penn State on October the 30th on Halloween weekend. So, yeah, Indy on the road before Penn State, and then Nebraska, Purdue, and then Michigan State, Michigan. Will be interesting to see how good Michigan State and Michigan are by the time Ohio State gets to play them. Michigan State's been playing great football. They got their big game tonight. Who are they playing tonight? They are playing, it should be on the ticker here. They're playing good old Western Kentucky. Oh, baby, the Hilltoppers with their phenomenal mascot. I think Michigan State should win that game pretty comfortably. Michigan beating Wisconsin pretty comfortably. And I think what's beneficial for Ohio State, you probably want Michigan State or Michigan to lose at least one game before they play them. But at the same time, you want to make sure that those teams are still playing good football by the time those games come. So then if Ohio State beats them, that they're really impressive wins. So there's 20 seconds here. Rutgers is doing, Rutgers, they got to the 20. It's a miracle. Are they going to call a timeout with 11 seconds left? Did they do it? Or it's just the clock stop for first down? I think just the clock stop for first down. Rutgers should just kneel it. At this point, why even get the score? Don't disappoint any of the bettors. Get the run, the nice screen. Rutgers screens. It's a classic Rutgers tradition. Game is final. Ohio State has beaten Rutgers 52-13 officially. The Buckeyes are 4-1. Solid victory there. So I am going to keep an eye on another game happening right now. I think it's a very important game. Oregon and Stanford. The Ducks are up 24-17 here with 3 minutes to go. But I want to hear what you guys have to say about Ohio State's win, because if I'm being frank, there's not much to say other than good things. And not much to say other than they played great. And CJ Stroud looked good. The second half was really essentially just you had to play the second half because that's how football works. There was no point in playing that second half. The game was over by the first quarter. The game was over by the first quarter. The second quarter set it in stone. The third and fourth quarter were just routine at that point. There was really no point in there. Defense was good. I really liked the defense. They didn't have a lot to contend with. And there was a moment there after they gave up that big touchdown in the first quarter that I thought, well, because Ohio State, scored 24 points, maybe the defense is maybe playing a little bit nonchalant, maybe not going for it 100%. But then after that drive and after Rutgers scored that touchdown, then they just shut everybody up and didn't allow any points in the second, didn't allow any points in the third, and gave up a garbage time score in the fourth quarter. So it's important that they were able to score 52 points as an offense with one touchdown from the defense and be able to hold Rutgers to under 2 touchdowns and an extra point. They held them to just 2 touchdowns, and Rutgers missed an extra point. So defense holding to 13 points, fantastic. And the defense has only given up, 20 points in the last 2 weeks, because they only gave up 7 to Akron last week, and now they only give up 13 to Rutgers this week. So defensively, confidence is flowing. But I think that's really the buzzword, I think, today is confidence. This was a game that you would expect Ohio State to win. I don't think it would have been a blowout because of how well Rutgers played against Michigan last week. But this is now, build on this. Ohio State needs to be able to dominate games like this against opponents similar in skill to Rutgers for the rest of the season. Maryland needs to be a very similar result. Domination in the first half, good decision-making and passes from CJ Stroud, and you are able to just win the game comfortably, win by 20, 25, maybe even 30 points. I don't think you're going to have another win by 39 points this season, but at least try and win games by 3 scores, especially against Maryland. You got to beat Maryland by 3 scores. Indiana maybe by 2. Penn State's obviously the huge game. If Ohio State loses to Penn State, the season's over, but there's a little bit of hope, even with the loss to Oregon. A little bit of hope after this win against Rutgers. The way the Buckeyes played, there's a little bit of hope. Oregon is probably going to beat Stanford. I think the Ducks have the ball here with 2:21 left, up by 7. And if Oregon wins, then that probably gives Ohio State less of an opportunity to move higher up in the rankings. So almost flawless. It's hard to be flawless. I think it's impossible, essentially. The first half was basically flawless except for the touchdown. There was maybe like 2 plays that Ohio State didn't execute on. The rest of it was great. CJ Stroud, I just can't say enough good things about him today. He showed his poise in the pocket. He showed his touch throwing the ball. He was super accurate. The receivers were getting open. He was going through his progressions well. He didn't look like a freshman today. He looked like a junior or a senior. He looked very good in the pocket today. Love that performance from CJ Stroud. And it's important that this game sort of showed words. That's a tongue twister. That TreVeyon Henderson isn't the whole offense, because there was that feeling that TreVeyon Henderson was the whole offense after Tulsa and after Akron. So great to see other guys get involved in the offense, other guys score for sure. OSU is spoiled. Yeah, OSU is spoiled for sure. They have every right to be spoiled. Alabama's probably spoiled too. Alabama's probably thinking, gosh darn it, we gave up 14 points to Ole Miss. God damn. Yeah, no, 42-21, Alabama won by. There's fans that have the right to be spoiled. I'm a Yankee fan for baseball. I have a right to be spoiled. Yankees haven't won a World Series in 11 years, and I have every right to say that that's a drought for the Yankees, because the Yankees are expected to win the World Series every year. So just based on the fan base. Good win. Do you look confident? Love CJ today. Not sure if it was Rutgers being Rutgers or a good win, but I'll take it. No, I think it's a little bit of both. Rutgers being Rutgers played a part, but I think the way the Buckeyes played, just the way they executed plays, they would have beaten, I think, most teams today. Obviously, if you're saying you can't really say they would have beaten any team in the country today, because if they're playing Bama or Georgia, it's not going to happen. But play execution, going through progressions, CJ Stroud doing that, and being able to give everybody touches, really good. Great execution. K-State returned to kickoff after an OU unsportsmanlike conduct. How about that? Yeah, Oklahoma. Ooh, okay. I'm going to switch to the Oklahoma game here on my little iPad. I've got like 5 screens going earlier today watching all this freaking sports action. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, Oklahoma's only up by 6 here with 1:20 to go, but I think the Sooners are going to get the ball back, so Oklahoma should stay undefeated. Cody Simon's injury. I do not know what's going on with Cody Simon. It's probably worth a little look up on the Twitter for sure. But I got to stay on these apps on my phone just to keep stuff up here. So, yeah, I mean, it looks like Oklahoma and Oregon are going to win. But I think the conversation now goes to rankings. So let's go to the AP top 25 here and discuss where Ohio State can end up. Now, even though it's against Rutgers, I think the way the Buckeyes played is enough to warrant a top 10 spot. And obviously, I think it makes sense that they'll be in the top 10, just if you look at it logically, because they're 11th and 2 top 10 teams lost. Arkansas getting shut out by Georgia, and some people are probably saying that Georgia's the best team in the country. I still think Alabama is, but Georgia is pretty freaking darn close. Those teams are going to play each other in the SEC championship, and nobody's going to score until the 4th overtime. And then they're probably going to play again in the national championship. And then Notre Dame loses to Cincinnati. Huge day for Ohio football. Ohio State beats Rutgers, huge program-changing win, obviously, for the Buckeyes, in quotes. But Cincinnati, that is one of the biggest wins in Cincinnati football history, to go to South Bend, beat Notre Dame, stay unbeaten, and potentially cause chaos in the college football playoff rankings. So we're not having defensive ends that change the game. It's true, yeah, the defensive ends have not been the X factor for the Buckeyes. X factor for the Buckeyes has been TreVeyon Henderson, honestly, for most of the games this season. CJ Stroud was the X factor, I think, today, though. He looked different. He was going through the progressions, looked like a Buckeyes QB. We're used to seeing, exactly. CJ Stroud looked good. Got the nerves out, looked confident, and we're able to really take it to the Scarlet Knights, able to basically end the game after a good, 8 minutes, we want to say. Oklahoma won. Is it official? Yeah, it's official. Okay, so Oklahoma's going to win. Oklahoma probably the worst team in the top. Do we think Oklahoma's the worst team in the top 10? Looking at the top 10 now, Oregon might be – no, not Oregon. Oklahoma might be the most overrated team in the top 10. Maybe Florida, but Florida played against Alabama really well, but obviously they have a loss. But yeah, Oklahoma's overrated. I'm always going to say Oklahoma's overrated. They just haven't been that impressive this season. Another win where they sort of skate by. I mean, they skated by West Virginia, they skate by Nebraska, they skate by Tulane, and they kind of skated by against Kansas State. They were dominant most of the game. It looked like Oklahoma had a decent lead. This is probably their best win outside of what? They beat Wagner 59-0, something ridiculous. Western Carolina 76-0. I underestimated how bad Western Carolina is, but another close win for Oklahoma. So they might keep dropping down the rankings by staying undefeated for sure. You're picking Texas to beat them? Texas beats them. That'd be huge. It'd be a huge win next week. Best thing for Cincy would not to get into playoffs. Notre Dame offense is not good. I liked CJ's performance, but I thought he looked only at the receiver he wanted to throw to. Yeah, it's possible. I mean, it's possible that Ryan Day called him plays and said, just go with the one read, and that's it. There was a few plays where he was making 2 or 3 reads, and then he made some decent runs today. I think it's a good day running the ball for CJ Stroud. He had a couple of plays where he saw that nobody was open and decided to get some runs. All right, Stanford's going to get the ball here with 1:59 deep in their own territory, so they have a chance to drive to try and tie Oregon here. But yeah, I see that. And at the same time, Rutgers' defense was probably not playing well enough where he probably only had one read to make and had a primary receiver to throw to for most plays and was able to throw to that primary receiver. So that's great too. But yeah, Oklahoma, I think, will drop more. Let's face it, Alabama, Georgia are going to be the top 2 teams in the nation probably for the rest of the season. I don't see them losing until they have to play each other in the SEC championship. That's honestly the way that I feel about the top 2. We'll see what happens with Oregon. We'll see what happens with Penn State tonight. Iowa killed Maryland yesterday. Oklahoma, despite being 5-0, should drop in the rankings because they're overrated. I think Cincinnati will be top 5 on Sunday. I think they move Cincinnati up to 5th and drop Iowa to 6th, controversially. I think Cincinnati goes top 5. Arkansas will drop pretty low. Notre Dame is going to drop low. Notre Dame probably is done. They probably don't have a shot to make the playoff. It's very hard to be a one-loss team outside of the Power 5 and make the college football playoff. But Ohio State should absolutely hop over Florida, absolutely hop over Notre Dame. I would say, I don't know about Arkansas, so I would say that Ohio State should probably be 9th or 8th or 10th between 8 and 10, probably realistically, I think they'll be number 9 in the rankings. I think the committee definitely puts them above not the committee. The AP writers vote them over Florida, no matter what happens with Florida tonight. And I think they hop them over Notre Dame. I don't know, though. We'll see. If they don't hop them over Notre Dame, then people will be very interested. It's possible that Ohio State might need to prove a little bit more. Beat Maryland by 40. Beat Indiana by 20. And then beat Penn State. If Ohio State beats Penn State, they are back on track to have a shot in the college football playoff. Nobody wants any part of Georgia. Absolutely. Should be 3 after today. The AP won't, though. No, Cincinnati will not be top 3. Just because they don't play in a Power 5 conference. Still doesn't know, he still hasn't shown. Well, he does. If he doesn't need to stretch the field to win games, then he doesn't need to stretch the field. Well, hopefully he has some plays called for him in the coming weeks in preparation for Penn State that he throws deep balls, but today he didn't need to throw deep balls, so no big deal. Michigan is the good question. Where do you rank Michigan? They're 14th right now. They had a huge win over Wisconsin. Like, the Ohio State-Michigan game could be the most important Ohio State-Michigan game in what feels like, 6 years. It's been a long time since an Ohio State-Michigan game has mattered towards the big course of the college football season. Michigan will hop above BYU. There's no doubt in my mind about that because they beat Wisconsin. They should hop above Ole Miss because Ole Miss lost. Do they hop above Ohio State? I think the committee is going to hop Michigan over Ohio State, because of the fact that this week they both played conference games on the road, but Michigan played a better team. Wisconsin's not that good, though. Wisconsin's 1-3 now, but Wisconsin has that reputation. Wisconsin played Penn State close. And Michigan, but fair enough. Michigan is undefeated, so there's something to be said about Michigan potentially being ranked higher than Ohio State. I know Ohio State fans are going to hate that I'm saying this, but it is very possible that Michigan will be ranked above Ohio State for the next AP rankings because they're undefeated and because they just beat Wisconsin, which is a big win for them on the road. What has happened to Wisconsin? I know, Wisconsin. What is going on with the Badgers? I mean, I want to look at the Big Ten a little bit just to kind of see what's going on in the Big Ten. What's been happening to the Big Ten? Yeah, Minnesota, big win over Purdue. Illini played Charlotte. It's meaningless in the grand scheme of things. Iowa killed. I mean, what are the Big Ten standings right now? ACC. No, I want the Big Ten, CBS. But while I'm looking for this stuff, guys, make sure to follow this channel. Make sure to like the video. If you want to super chat, it's encouraged, helps the channel out a lot. Go follow the Voice of College Football on YouTube. Mark Rogers, really great guy. Best college football YouTube channel out there. Post-game shows across all the different channels for the different teams. So if you have another favorite team that's not Ohio State, or you don't have two favorite teams, whatever, just follow those channels too. Just subscribe, like, do everything for Voice of College Football. You'll love it. It's good content. Yeah, Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, Penn State, Iowa. God, Wisconsin is hilarious, man. Who would have thought that Wisconsin, oh my God, Wisconsin's the only one-win team in the Big Ten. That's crazy. Oh, Wisconsin's the only one-win team in the Big Ten. Everybody else has at least 2 wins because Illinois won today. Rutgers has 3 wins. That's hilarious. Wisconsin has 1 win, and they're the only one in the conference with 1 win. That is hysterical. Michigan beat Rutgers by 7 last week, and we just hosed Rutgers. So that's a good point, Green Man. That's something I think that makes sense. We'll see if the AP writers take that into account when it comes to the debate of who do I rank between Ohio State and Michigan, who goes higher, because of the fact that Michigan barely beat Rutgers, but Ohio State obliterated them very convincingly, which is very good for them. But the other thing that's worth mentioning, because Buckeye River Rat up north mentioned that Iowa is scary. Ohio State playing well, and if they beat Maryland and continue to play this well against Maryland, that could potentially lead to even going higher in the rankings. Because guess what? Iowa's playing Penn State next week, so you're guaranteed to have one of the current top 5 Big Ten teams get a loss, and that's really going to help Ohio State, I think. I mean, I'm curious what you guys have to say. For the sake of Ohio State's ranking, and for the rest of the season, who would you prefer to lose that game, Penn State or Iowa? I don't know. Because if you beat an undefeated Penn State team, if Penn State beats Iowa, then Penn State I think will be top 3. They would hop above an undefeated Oregon team in my mind. And then you play Penn State at home and beat Penn State, top 3 in the country, then Ohio State is right back in the mix. And then Iowa, you don't play Iowa. So I think Iowa will beat Penn State. Yeah, I don't know. That's going to be such a good game. That's going to be a great game. Michigan ranked above Ohio State. Michigan will pay for it. That game last year, yeah. It's really feeling like 2014. A little bit, yeah. It's kind of a chase, a bit. I mean, now it's just a chase to see if they can make the playoff. That's really the big question. But you need other teams to lose. One of Iowa or Penn State will have a loss by this time next week. I think that's an afternoon game. So, yeah, by this time next week, one of those teams will have a loss. And then it's a question of whether or not Michigan stays unbeaten, and then whoever wins Iowa Penn State stays unbeaten. But I think if Ohio State played an undefeated Penn State team at home and beat them, that really keeps Ohio State in the playoff conversation. It even makes their case better. For sure. Wisconsin lost to 3 top 15 teams. Sounds like Michigan. Yeah, good point there, Dependent. Good point. Wisconsin is hilarious. But, yeah, the conversation. I'm kind of talking about this stuff because I enjoy it in terms of the rankings and whatnot and just the bigger picture. Because at the same time, from the actual game perspective, it was a blowout. And, if you're just joining us, then, the big highlights that we sort of referred to in regards to the game. CJ Stroud, best performance of the season, looked phenomenal in the first half. Travion Henderson, another big run. Chris Olave making history. Defense looking really confident on the D-line, getting some picks, getting a pick 6 in the first half. Just an overall great performance for Ohio State. Penn State loss would give us a chance of still winning the Big Ten, even if we lose to Penn State. Yeah, sure. East team should root for Penn State. Okay, good point. Iowa's better chance going undefeated after the Penn State game. Yeah, I mean, obviously looking at the future schedules, if Iowa beats Penn State and then wins the Big Ten, Iowa's making the playoff. If there's an undefeated team in the Big Ten, I think they make the playoff because despite the fact that Iowa might have an easier road down the line after Penn State, they're going to have to face either Penn State again or face Michigan or even Michigan State or Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. And then if they beat one of those teams that could be really good by season's end, then Iowa's going to make the playoff. But if Michigan goes undefeated, beats Ohio State, wins the Big Ten, and potentially beats Iowa, then I think Michigan makes the playoff. There's a path for Michigan to make the playoff. But I want to see what Michigan's schedule is looking like for the rest of the season, because that also gives us an idea of who they have to play. Because Ohio State, really, their 3 toughest games for the rest of the year is playing Penn State, playing Michigan State, and playing Michigan. Michigan State is sort of the team that I'm kind of curious to see how they'll be by the time we get to mid-November, because we'll see if the Spartans can sort of keep it up. I don't know if they can. Not sold on Michigan? Yeah, I don't know. I think today was their best win this season, going to Wisconsin and beating them. That's important, but Michigan has a very similar road to Ohio State. Not too many competitive games. They played Nebraska, then Northwestern. You would expect both those to be wins. Big game in East Lansing against Michigan State. Then they play Indiana, Penn State, Maryland, and then host Ohio State at the Big House. But the Big Ten is open for Ohio State. They need a little bit of help, but they're going to get that help immediately next week with one of Iowa or Penn State losing. Penn State losing gives Ohio State an edge to win their division. So Iowa winning is probably best case, because then Ohio State is in a position where they could potentially win the division if they beat Penn State. Because if Penn State beats, let's face it, Ohio State can't lose another game this season. We said that after the Oregon game. And they're in a position where the quality wins they're going to get if they beat Penn State, Michigan puts them in position to win the division and probably face Iowa in the Big Ten title game. Not so on Michigan either. If Ohio State can make it to the Big Ten championship with only one loss, then beats undefeated Iowa in the championship, will make OSU difficult to leave out of the playoff. It will. And that's a good scenario you bring up. So let's talk through that scenario. Ohio State, one-loss Big Ten champion. But let's say, and let's be realistic here, this is probably going to happen. Alabama is probably going to play Georgia in the SEC championship. At the rate that these teams are playing with phenomenal defense, Georgia hasn't given up a point in 2 weeks. They shut out their last 2 opponents. They just shut out Arkansas, who people were talking about as being one of the most underrated teams in the country. They, skyrocketed up to 8th in the country because they beat, who'd they beat? They beat Texas. And then last week, I'm blanking for some reason on who they beat last week. It was a huge win for them. I'm looking it up right now just to make sure. Texas A&M, that's right. They beat Texas A&M last week. I am pretty positive, if I'm being honest, that if Alabama were to face Georgia, both teams undefeated in the SEC championship, then the loser, I think would still make the playoff if it's a competitive game, which it would absolutely be a competitive game. So that probably gives Alabama and Georgia playoff spots. If Cincinnati finishes undefeated after beating Notre Dame, we'll see about that too. But then the question of obviously Oregon and Oklahoma. Oregon and Oklahoma are kind of the wild cards in this, because if Oregon and Oklahoma both finish undefeated and Oklahoma gets some big, better wins on the road, then Oklahoma will probably make the playoff if they win the Big 12, finish undefeated, and play better football. If Oregon wins the Pac-12 and finishes undefeated, being 3rd in the country, there's a possibility that Oregon makes the playoff. So that might be the scenario where you leave out Ohio State. If Oregon finishes unbeaten, wins the Pac-12, Oklahoma plays better, finishes undefeated, and then whoever loses Georgia, Alabama, and they're still like, this team is too good, we got to give them a shot. We'll give them a 3 seed, and we'll have them play whoever. And then we'll see about Cincinnati. I don't think the committee is going to put Cincinnati in the playoff. It doesn't matter what happens with them if they finish undefeated. They just have no love for the group of 5. Even though Cincinnati is a great football team, they're not going to put Cincinnati in the playoff. So we'll see. Oregon and Oklahoma will lose at least 1 each. We'll see. Right here, Oregon might. There's a big play here in the Oregon game. There's 12 seconds left. Stanford's got the ball on the 4, 2nd and goal. The Cardinal could potentially get the tie here. There's the throw. He's going for the lob in the end zone. It's a freaking batted down. 8 seconds left, 3rd and goal. Yeah, that's the thing. UGA and Alabama are going to get in. It doesn't matter unless they lose 2 games. If both teams have if both teams go into the SEC championship undefeated, there is no doubt in my mind that both teams make the playoff. They're just playing way too well. Georgia is playing phenomenally. Alabama is playing phenomenally. They had the 1-half skid against Florida. Oklahoma's Florida State in 2015. Yeah, that's a good comparison, Isaac. I get that. That's a good one. Alabama will lose a game this regular season, in my opinion. I don't know, man. I don't know if Alabama's losing a game. I don't know. Alabama just stomped on Ole Miss. I mean, who are they playing for the rest of the season? I mean, the path is there for Ohio State. The path is there for the Buckeyes to get in the playoff. They need some help from their fellow Big Ten teams. They need some help from their fellow Alliance teams, for sure. Let me look at Alabama's remaining schedule here. See if there's a loss on the cards. Texas A&M, maybe. I don't think they lose to A&M. They're not losing to Mississippi State. I don't think they lose to Tennessee. They're not going to lose to LSU. They're not going to lose to New Mexico State. I don't know if they lose to Arkansas, and then they're not going to lose to Auburn. So I think they're going to finish. I mean, it's Alabama, for Christ's sake. Alabama is so freaking good every year, but Georgia is so good. These teams won't all win out. I don't know. They might. They might. Obviously, I don't think they all do. I think at least 1 or 2 of them will get 1 loss. But Stanford. Throw, end zone. Oh, he threw it out of the end zone. Okay, 5 seconds, 4th and goal. Stanford needs a touchdown to keep this game alive. Arkansas, A&M, Auburn. Those are probably the most competitive games for Bama. I still think they'd win them, though. The way they're playing is too good. This team is just too good. Yeah, that's the thing. If there was a situation where it's Bama, Georgia, and Cincinnati, and then there's 1 spot left, and Ohio State Ohio State wins the Big Ten with 1 loss, they make it, I think. But the only thing that would go against them is Oklahoma and Oregon both being undefeated. Stanford throwing to the corner of the end zone. He missed it. Oh, there's a flag. I think it's pass interference. I think Stanford's going to get a free play here with no time on the clock. It's Raiders-Chiefs. It's Raiders-Chiefs rerun in college form. If you win the Big Ten, you're in with 1 loss no matter who it is. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. I think if Oklahoma plays good football and wins the Big 12 undefeated, then I think they're going to put Oklahoma in. I don't agree with the decision. I absolutely agree that a Big Ten team that wins the conference and has 1 loss and has some good wins under their belt should make the playoff, and I would put them in the playoff. But the committee just likes Oklahoma. If they finish undefeated, they win the Big 12, they play better football, I think they put Oklahoma in. That's the thing. That's the thing that I'm scared of for Ohio State and whoever wins the Big 10. I mean, if it's Michigan, whatever. I don't want Michigan to make the playoff. All right. Free play, lob, end zone, caught, touchdown. Touchdown, Stanford. Wow. No time on the clock. Redo 4th down. Stanford touchdown. Extra point ties the game, and we're going to overtime. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about Oregon and Oklahoma being undefeated, potentially screwing up Ohio State's playoff chances. They might lose tonight. It might happen. I am behind on my iPad stream, so if anyone spoils it in chat, I'll be upset, but I won't be mad at you. I'll just be a little upset. But this game's going to OT. Kick the extra point. Take it to overtime. Clutch from the Cardinal. Oregon pass interference. That cost them. That might cost them. All right, OT. Exciting stuff here. Very exciting stuff. They'll have an off passing day. Yeah, depends. Depends on who they play. Depends on the day, obviously. If Ohio State beats a top 5 Iowa team in the Big Ten championship, then how can they be left out of the playoffs? Like I said, I would put them in. I'm just saying I'm thinking like the committee does and how the committee likes undefeated conference champions. The committee likes undefeated conference champions. Oklahoma, I think, has a leg up on Oregon because the Big 12 is, I guess, better than the Pac-12. I think it is. But the committee likes Oklahoma. They like to put Oklahoma in the playoff, and they've put Oklahoma in the playoff before, and they've never made the championship game. I would put Ohio State in if they beat Iowa in the Big Ten championship with 1 loss. I think they should go in. If they put Oklahoma in over Ohio State, I'd be pissed. But if Oklahoma's undefeated, I think they put Oklahoma in. That's what I'm saying. Is everyone's out? That never has happened and never will. Yeah. Never has happened, never will. They'll be the bogey. We'll see if it's today for Oregon. If Oregon loses today, the Pac-12 is not going to have a team in the playoff. It's not going to happen. The Pac-12 won't have a team in the playoff if Oregon loses to Stanford today. If Oregon loses at all, Pac-12 is not getting a playoff spot. Then it's basically who's going to make it between Oklahoma, Ohio State, and Cincinnati. Well, not Ohio State. Big Ten champion and Cincinnati. I hope Oklahoma doesn't go undefeated because that makes Ohio State's chances a lot better. But how is Oklahoma not lost? Oklahoma has not played well in most of their games. How have they not lost yet? I think Texas has a shot to beat them next week. I think the Longhorns can beat the Sooners this time around. Yeah, hit that like button. Thanks. The only games Oklahoma has for the rest of the season, though, against ranked opposition is Baylor and Oklahoma State. Do they lose one of those? I don't know. They're not losing to Kansas. Iowa State, maybe? I mean, hey, Iowa State was top 10 preseason, and they just crashed and burned. TCU, I don't think they lose to. There might be a loss in there. It's possible. It's certainly possible. But Ohio State fans, I think, will breathe easier at night and know their playoff chances are much better if Oklahoma loses. Because then all the Buckeyes got to do is just win out, win the conference, make the playoff. Just not only. That's a lot because they have to beat Penn State, they have to beat Michigan State, they have to beat Michigan, and then they have to beat probably Iowa. Been a Michigan fan that's been rooting for OSU to win the Big Ten. Time for you to move aside. Yeah, I get that. Hey, if Michigan made the playoff, that would defeat all the odds. I don't think anybody thought the Wolverines had a shot at making the playoff. Wolverines unbeaten. If they win some more games, they beat Ohio State at the Big House, make the Big Ten champ. If Michigan goes unbeaten and wins the Big Ten, Michigan will make the playoff. No doubt in my mind. I think that's a really good chance. I agree. Yeah, bad O-line play all year. Classic Big 12, isn't it? All right, let's see how this overtime goes for the Stanford-Oregon game. So now this Ohio State post-game show has sort of half turned into an Oregon-Stanford watch party. Like, there'd be more to talk about with this game if there was more to talk about. The second half was essentially just routine. No, there was no point in the second half. The game was over. But Ohio State's got to play well against Maryland. They got to play well against Maryland. They got to beat them big. But an Oregon loss here would be huge. And an Oregon loss here also means whoever wins Iowa, Penn State is going to be number 3 in the country behind Georgia and Alabama. No doubt in my mind. Please don't put that Michigan offense in the playoff. Yeah, I mean, here's a good question to ask you guys as we're watching this Oregon-Stanford overtime together. Which Big Ten team do you think has the best chance? I did not say think they can win, but the best chance to beat Alabama or Georgia. Do you think any Big Ten team has any chance of beating Bama or Georgia? My answer, no. I think the only teams that can beat Bama and Georgia are each other. They're the only teams that can compete with each other. The way that they're playing, no way. They may not all season. They're about to play Texas. Texas is okay. The Texas loss to Arkansas is looking slightly, but that's the thing. Georgia is so above Arkansas in talent and class and execution. Georgia is so good. This is the best Georgia, I think, has looked I would say that this Georgia team this year, the way that they've been playing is better than the Georgia team that made the championship in, was it the 2017 season with Sonny Michel and Nick Chubb. That Georgia team was great, don't get me wrong, but the way Georgia's playing this regular season, this team looks like it's better, which is saying something. From what I've seen, no. 2006, Michigan would have beat Florida, and in 2016, Michigan would have won. Yeah, 2006, Michigan, Florida. Yeah, that 06 Michigan team was a really good team. Georgia defense is serious. They play lights out football for real. They do play lights out football for real. Georgia is amazing. I can't wait to watch Georgia Alabama. If the SEC championship is not Georgia Alabama, then I would eat grass or something because I don't know. I'm talking nonsense right now. I just want to see if little S Stanford here is going to beat Oregon. I seen someone talking playoffs. Here's how we win out. As long as TTUN and Penn State keep winning, we'll be fine. And we need Oregon to win, though. Really? You need Oregon to win? Why is that? I get the argument of needing Oregon to win from an Ohio State perspective, because then it makes the loss look maybe slightly better. Because if Oregon's unbeaten and Ohio State's only loss is to a really, really good Oregon team, then yeah. And if Oregon loses, then that makes the loss look even worse. I get that argument, so for sure. Michigan has an OSU mental block. I hope they do. I hope they do. All right, Stanford starts with the ball. Georgia offense up in the air for me. Yeah, I don't know. All right, drop pass on the first down here. Drop pass on the first down. Injuries can make Bama or Georgia beatable. Yeah, I mean, injuries destroys everything. If you have key injuries, then the season is definitely in question. For sure. Iowa needs to beat Penn State and OSU beat unbeaten Iowa in the Big Ten championship. Yeah, that's really what needs. That's probably the most simple scenario when it comes to OSU making the playoff. Beat an undefeated Iowa and beat Penn State. Because I don't think beating an undefeated Penn State is enough, and then you beat a one-loss Iowa team in the Big Ten championship. Assuming it's all going to happen. Hell, Ohio State could lose to Maryland next week. I don't think they will, but it's possible. Anything's possible. I didn't think Ohio State would beat Rutgers by 39. I thought they would win by 29, maybe 19. I thought Rutgers would put in a better performance, but they didn't at all. Rutgers was terrible today. Ohio State played great. Love it. I think Cincy's the third best team. Basically, third best is what everyone else is fighting for. Bama and Georgia are head and shoulders. Yeah, totally, Matthew. Bama and Georgia are so much better than everyone else. It isn't even close at this point. I'd love to see Cincinnati make. If Ohio State doesn't make the playoff, I'll take Cincinnati. It's another team here in the Buckeye State, and I would have a group of 5 team make it. Give them a shot, even though we've seen Notre Dame make the playoff and get hammered by anybody who plays them. I want to see Cincinnati play in the playoff. Have them play Georgia and lose by 60. That'd be fun. It'd be different. At least Clemson's not making the playoff this year. Thank God. No team in the ACC. Georgia has 2 touchdowns scored on defense. They've given up 0. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. As long as Penn State doesn't get blown out by Iowa, then fine. Yeah, as long as Penn State doesn't get blown. I don't think that game's going to be a blowout. Penn State, Iowa is going to be really close. Texas A&M losing to Mississippi State. All right, Texas A&M. Season falling apart. Season's falling apart for A&M. Ohio State is super talented and loaded, but they are a very young team. Yeah, a little inexperienced. So even if they don't make the playoff this year, I think if they can get to the Big Ten championship, even if they lose in the Big Ten championship, I think that's really good for this Buckeye team. Add that experience. I still think the expectation with the season now for me is to, at the very least, win the division in the Big Ten by beating Penn State and beating Michigan State and beating Michigan. Get to the Big Ten championship. That for me is the expectation. I think getting to the playoff would be sort of an above expectation, kind of seeing how Ohio State lost to Oregon and the way they kind of played against Tulsa. I'd be happy with them getting to the championship. If they lose 2 games, I'm not happy. Stanford still has the ball here. It's the longest overtime first possession ever. How good is Arkansas miss? I agree Alabama and Georgia are elite, but they will play better teams than that. For the rest of this season, I don't think they're playing better teams than that. Arkansas looked really good. I mean, who else is Georgia playing this year? Let me check the schedule. Who else is Georgia playing this year? Alabama and Georgia are def number 1 and 2 if they played. Tom, I have Georgia with the upset. Okay. Oh, Stanford tried another corner end zone throw. The best team Georgia's playing for the rest of the season is Florida, which could be a top 10 matchup if Florida can somehow hold on to their top 10 ranking. I do think Ohio State will hop over Florida, even if Florida wins. Unless Florida beats Kentucky by 60 or 50, then Ohio State, as of this second, I think Ohio State hops over Florida. Maybe over Notre Dame too. I don't see Georgia playing a better team than Arkansas. Maybe Florida. Florida's probably better than Arkansas, considering how well they played against Bama, even though it was a loss. The hardest team Bama's playing as of now is maybe A&M, maybe Arkansas. Get in the end zone. Touchdown, Stanford. Okay, Stanford scores on the first overtime possession. A stop, and Stanford upsets Oregon. Arkansas is a legit top 20 team. Georgia and Bama are just really good. Yeah, Arkansas is legit top 20 for sure. Absolutely. I can still rank Georgia too. Don't they have a better resume than Bama right now? I know. That's the thing. Like, if you don't go based off of reputation and you just go based off results, which, by the way, on the Voice of College Football, Mark does a video every week, the top 25 rankings that actually make sense. Absolutely, Georgia should be number one. They shut out Arkansas. They only gave up 3 points against Clemson. 2 huge wins against Clemson, Arkansas. Absolutely. I think, Deontay, you're right. Based off of purely results this year, Georgia should be the number one team in the country. And they might be the number one team in the country, better than Alabama. We just have to see them play each other. But I just think by the way Alabama plays the football, and obviously by reputation, Alabama's number one. One sits in the Big Ten, but the Big 12 got them. Yeah, we'll see how Cincinnati does in the Big 12. I think Cincinnati would beat Oklahoma today. I think they'd beat Texas. Do you guys think that's another good question as we're so we'll continue this post game until the end of the Oregon-Stanford game, unless it goes to 8 overtimes. But Cincinnati in the Big 12. Do you think this Cincinnati team can beat Oklahoma or Texas? Let's hear it. I agree. Georgia's defense is better than Bama's. I agree with that. Yeah, Florida is good. I like Florida. All right, Oregon ball here in overtime. I want to hear your answers to that question. Cincinnati today, would they be able to beat Oklahoma, Texas, win the Big 12? Drop pass on the first throw. Here we go. Come on, the Cardinal. Oh, they threw flags. It's pass interference, free first down for Oregon. That's not a good start for the Stanford defense. Not a good start for the Stanford D. Okay. I think Cincinnati in the Big 12, this Cincinnati team would have a chance to win the conference. I think Cincinnati would beat Oklahoma. I'd love to see them play. I'd love to see them play against each other. Point is, the SEC is it much better than the Big 10? Based on the way teams have been playing recently, yeah, I think the SEC isn't much better for sure. Just because Arkansas had a big loss, Ole Miss just lost, Texas A&M is not as good. Auburn and LSU have not been that impressive. They're playing tonight, obviously. The Big Ten has some surprising teams. I mean, Michigan State and Michigan are certainly the surprises in how high they've been ranked. Iowa, too, even. Iowa was high in the preseason, but the way Iowa's been playing has been phenomenal. Matthew's a Texas fan. I think Cincy would definitely give us a fight. On a neutral field, they would be favored by probably 3 or 7. Okay, nice, honest opinion. I don't want Cincy in the Big Ten. Then we got to compete for in-state kids, and honestly, maybe they could. Yeah, Cincinnati would give. I think Cincinnati, Ohio State would be a good game. That would be competitive. Big Ten East is the best division in college football. Yeah, I would say yeah. Ohio State, Michigan, Michigan State, Penn State, 4 very quality teams. 4 teams in the top 25. Yeah, Big Ten East is the best division in college football. Better than both divisions in the SEC. I think that is a true statement. I would totally agree with you because the Pac-12 is sort of discounted out. The ACC is discounted out. It's basically a division in the Big Ten or the SEC is the best division in college football. The Big 12 don't have divisions. I think since he runs the Big 12 this year, they're playing better than the entire Big 12 so far. They are completely. But it's just a question of who they've been playing. Cincinnati has a very favorable path to finishing undefeated. Temple, UCF, Navy, Tulane, Tulsa, South Florida, SMU, and East Carolina is their remaining schedule. Tulane could be interesting. Of course, Tulane, very, very good performance against Oklahoma, only losing by 5. And then Tulsa played well against the Buckeyes. If they can beat Tulane and Tulsa, yeah, I mean, Cincinnati has the favorable path to finishing the season undefeated. Oklahoma and Texas are leaving the Big 12, but yes, Cincinnati would. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I'm an idiot. It's true. I keep forgetting Oklahoma and Texas are going to be in the SEC. But that's not till 2025. Isn't Cincinnati joining the Big 12, in like 2023, if I'm not mistaken? So maybe they're going to be in the conference for 2 years together? All right, 2nd and 10 for Oregon. Come on, the Cardinal. I think Stanford winning this game is the best thing for OSU. That knocks out a whole, this Stanford beating Oregon knocks out a whole conference from the playoff picture, in my opinion, unless some crazy stuff happens. So I want the Cardinal to win. Big 3rd and 7 here. We'll see what Stanford can do. But Ohio State against Maryland next week. Anybody going? I'm not. But it should be a fun one. I think it's a noon kickoff, so hopefully it's not too hot. We're getting into that October weather. It's nice and chilly. Third down. Oh, big tackle. And he fumbled. But he recovered. Okay, but big fourth down here. Oregon's got to convert on fourth down to not lose. This is a huge, huge season-defining play for the Ducks coming up. 1 for 2 today on fourth downs. Is this the result that potentially opens the door for the Buckeyes? Cincy joining scared OU and Texas out of the Big 12. Yes, Troy. Yes. The mighty Bearcats scared the Sooners and the Longhorns. Absolutely. I mean, in the wild, a Longhorn would defeat a Bearcat, I think, because it's like a cute little bear. A Bearcat. That's kind of what it is. Michigan has to deal with MSU. OSU should have to deal with Cincinnati. OSU should have to deal with Cincinnati. Yeah. All right. Cardinal fans are going crazy up in Palo Alto. All you 4.0 GPA students. It's the Harvard of the West Coast, the tech industry home, Palo Alto. Stop calling timeouts. I want the result to happen. Come on, the Stanford. Their mascot is a tree. You think Ohio State's mascot's awesome? The nut is a freaking nut that is alive and walking around banging his head. Like, Stanford's got a tree. Best mascot in college football. The Stanford tree. Come on, tree. 4th and 8. Come on, the Stanford. Stop them. Stop them right here. Let's go. I'm behind anyone watching on a broadcast, so I'm not going to look at the chat so as anyone doesn't spoil. Oregon looking back to throw. He's got to move out of the pocket. He's got to throw to the sideline. Is that a catch? No catch. It's over. Stanford has beaten Oregon. Oregon has gone down to the Cardinal. 31-24 win for Stanford. Oregon has lost a game. The Pac-12 is definitely out of the playoff picture now. There's no way a Pac-12 team makes the playoff. The ACC and the Pac-12 out of the conversation. Now, after that has just happened, that is not a catch. He was very out of bounds. Now that has happened, that gives Ohio State huge chances. This is a great day for the Buckeyes. You beat Rutgers by 1 million, and then Oregon loses to open the door for a Big Ten team really having an automatic berth in the college football playoff. The only thing that could stand in the way of a one-loss Ohio State not getting in the playoff is if the committee is impressed enough with an undefeated Cincinnati and the committee is annoying enough to put an undefeated Oklahoma. That is the only thing that stands in their way. And I think the way Oklahoma plays football, they could lose a game. It's possible. Cincinnati, I don't know if they lose, but Cincinnati not being in a Power 5 has that going against them, even though I'd love to see Cincinnati in the playoff. My ideal playoff would be Alabama, Georgia, Cincinnati, and Ohio State. Georgia against Ohio State, Alabama against Cincinnati. But again, we still got time. That is a big mix-up. Stanford band hit the field. The band is out of the field, people. I know I'm talking like a lunatic right now. Buckeyes are improved. Knew they would. Freshmen are getting more snaps in games. Yes, Cheryl. Agree with you. Buckeyes are improving, and now they have even more hope. Their playoff hopes are still there after Oregon loses. But that is going to be me, I think, for this post game. I'm all energied out. I'm excited. I got other stuff I got to do, like eat food. For people like food. Oregon is a joke. They were never good at all, just Lucky Coombs, the old head coach, that was coaching his crappy D. The nut drops from a tree. That's a nice one. Since he won't have the strength of schedule to trump us, they won't. But OSU got to keep on winning. Take this performance against Rutgers. Take how well they executed on offense and defense. Take that into Maryland and beat Maryland convincingly. Then they got a bye week. Have some fun. Study for your midterms, you know. Be safe out there. Have a good time. The players getting ready for Indiana. The Hoosiers. Who is the Hoosiers? Ohio State should be able to beat Indiana. And then they go and play Penn State and beat Penn State. Got to beat Penn State. If Ohio State loses to Penn State, it's all over. If they lose one more game, it's all over. But this is the moment. Pac-12 is out of the picture. Win out and the Buckeyes have a chance. They have a chance. The season's not over. OSU, Michigan, Iowa, Penn State are all going to be top 10 teams. Unless Penn State will be top 10 even if they lose. Yeah, but we'll see if Penn State loses. If Penn State loses, oh boy. Because if Penn State loses and then maybe Michigan loses too, then Ohio State can win the division without having to, even if they don't lose. But yeah, it would be fascinating to see Michigan and Penn State and Michigan State and Ohio State, potentially going into the Ohio State-Penn State game, potentially all having losses. Michigan State's not undefeated, right? They lost a game. No, Michigan State's undefeated. What am I talking about? Michigan State's undefeated. And they play Rutgers next. Oh, Michigan State's going to kill Rutgers. And then they play Indiana. And then they play Michigan. Yeah. Guys, October 30th, circle it on your calendars. Michigan's playing Michigan State, and Penn State's going to play Ohio State. It's going to be a huge night. Get your freaking candy ready. Get your freaking Halloween costumes the day before Halloween, the day before NFL football on Halloween. There's college football on the 30th. We're going to have some freaking Big Ten East action. Get ready. But before that, get yourselves ready for a fun Sunday. Get yourselves ready for a good week. Ohio State's going to play Maryland. I will be here for the post game. It's going to be an earlier post game. Thank God. Don't have to be here in the evening. Even though I love being with you guys. My name is Ori Benatar. Here, do you want to show my name? Where's my name? How do I do the thingy where they show my name? Wait, I have to go. No. How do I figure this out? Oh, bam. There's my name. Yes, my name is Ori Benatar. If you want to follow me on Twitter, my name is at obenatar512. I cover soccer mostly, but I occasionally tweet about football. I follow college football very closely. But that is my name. Michigan State playing Western Kentucky. Come on, the Hilltoppers, the red blob mascot. They're going to beat them. If Wake Forest or BC finish undefeated, should be in the, Wake Forest, man. Wake Forest. Demon Deacons making the playoff. Absolutely. All right, last chat. Let's say CJ shuts the doubters down today. He looks so good and is so confident. 5 touchdowns, 4 different receivers. Travion. Beautiful. Love it. David, way to close it out. Great game for the Buckeyes. CJ looking awesome. But that's going to be me for the night, guys. Have a great Sunday. Have a great week. I'll see you after the Maryland game. I'll try and keep the energy up. And hopefully we're talking about a 49-point win for Ohio State over those pesky Maryland Terrapins. A Buckeye versus a turtle. I'm taking the Buckeye, man. If the turtle eats the Buckeye, then it's poisoned and dies. And that's what's going to happen next week. So I'll see you guys then. Stay safe out there. Have a good week. Peace out.